Many black leaders then realized that they had to catch up with the militants of the masses in the cities and to take over control of the civil rights movement. And this led, of course, to Black Power by 1966 and the essential ejection from SNCC and CORE of white participants. And they looked at the Moynihan Report as a harsh and judgmental description, tangle of pathology, remember, of black lower class urban culture. And they wanted nothing to do with this white Irishman who was telling them how to run their families. Johnson, by then, wrapped up in escalation of the war, angry at these black leaders. After all, Johnson felt he had made it possible for the civil rights laws of 64 and 65 to pass. Basically consigned the report to oblivion. And as other people have mentioned this morning, we endured maybe 25, 30 years of non-debate or dishonest debate over what was the problems of black middle class, lower class families. Moynihan, in an essay that he wrote for Commentary magazine in 1967, reflecting upon this, he felt really bruised by this. He was called a racist and had a hard time ever getting over what had happened to him. He referred to this change of direction from the Howard speech of June 1965 to the mood of late 65 and the Black Power mood of 66 as the moment lost in American history. Historians are always interested in turning points. Was this a moment lost? If something had been done to follow up the Moynihan Report by the Johnson administration, as had seemed to be likely, would things have been different? I don't think so, for reasons I'll suggest, but certainly it seemed that way to him. During this time, the problems that he described escalated so that, as many people have pointed out, the out-of-wedlock situation today is around 73% of black children born that way. In 1965, the rate, as I say, was 25%, so it's gone from 25 to 73. It's actually been around 70 for almost 20 years now, so it's zooped up in a big hurry. It's stabilized since then. One wonders, it probably can't get much higher, if you think about it. The white rate, meanwhile, which was 3% in 1965, compared to 25% for blacks, i.e. 1/8, has gone up to 28, 29% now. So it's gone from 3 to 29, the black from 25 to 73. The white rate has grown faster because it started at such a low level. But the gap is, of course, huge. One asks, why such increases? We've heard from some of the other speakers that things are a lot better today than they used to be. Well, they're not better in this regard. They're much, much worse. And I agree with Mr. Clegg in saying there is no single greater problem affecting black America than this. Why such increases? Well, I haven't time to go into this either. Read my book. That's a second plug. That's what professors do. Nobody reads our stuff, so if we get a chance to talk, we do. The answer is a combination of economic and cultural forces. The economic forces, which have been especially stressed by black scholars and white scholars, the most eminent is William Julius Wilson, who's written a number of books on this subject, talking about the deindustrialization of northern and western cities which had previously provided something like a stable income for blue-collar black people, created larger unemployment. The second is cultural forces, or rights consciousness, or what the author Andrew Cherlin, who Johns Hopkins professor who wrote a good book last year called The Marriage Go-Round, Andrew Cherlin, The Marriage Go-Round, refers to as expressive individualism. This was a byproduct of, among other things, the civil rights movement, causing Americans, another cause of this was the greater affluence of American society and the incredible materialism of American society. People thinking they have a right to do what they want. They have a right. This is what he calls expressive individualism. I've called it in some of my books rights consciousness. This has occurred throughout the industrialized Western world. Numbers such as I've described exist in all Western countries, not Japan, all Western industrialized countries. If you put together the 73% and the 28% black and white today, out of wedlock, and you throw in the Hispanic rate, as has been pointed out, there are more Hispanics now than blacks, and more Hispanic children than blacks. They're around 50%, so the overall average is 41% of all children in the United States today are born out of wedlock. The vast majority of these children grow up in fatherless families, which is nothing wrong with that. Women can raise kids, but most of these families are desperately poor. Anyway, you know this subject. You don't have to have me explain it. It's pretty clear. So you have, this is part of a worldwide situation in industrialized countries. There are other countries, in fact, who have rates higher than our 40 to 41%. But none comes close to the black rate in the United States of 73. Well, what can we do about it? I'll close with this. Have you raised your sign yet? Okay. Well, I close with some comments, as others have in the media, about the reputed successes of the Harlem Children's Zone, which is a holistic program, which some of you know, which deals with mothers when they are pregnant. It has preschool and pre-preschool. It has counseling. It has health care. It is reasonably well funded. Obama pushed for this during the campaign of 2008 and since. And I mention this as a promising development. But this is, what's happening there requires massive resources. It is very hard to duplicate, to keep up. A lot of fundraising takes place all the time. The teachers work very hard, and there's always the possibility, as there is in KIPP schools and other such situations, of burnout. And so whether a massive expansion of programs such as that will really happen or make an enormous difference is hard to say. Final point is that government cannot stop people from having children. So I conclude, I guess, as Mr. Clegg does, by saying I don't know what the answer to this problem is, because it is both economic and cultural, because it is international, and because it's especially problematic for blacks. Let me finish with a quote. This is from the white social scientists Christopher Jenks and David Ellwood, who are experts in the formation of social policy. This is a very discouraging note to follow on, so you better take your flask out. They said that changing long-range trends in family structure is like dealing with the weather. We understand, they said, the weather far better than we used to. But while better understanding has produced better forecasts, it has not produced better weather. They add, quote, "For those who want to alter family structure, we can offer only one bit of advice. treat anyone who claims to know how to do this with a high degree of skepticism. Thank you.